Listeners and viewers of Bluesmoose Radio, and in this case, Bluesmoose Magazine, we have Tommy Castro on the other side of the globe, sitting in what looks like his exercise studio. A lot of guitars on the back.
Well,
We're
it's
gonna.
actually, yeah, it's more of a music studio. We've done some recording in here, not a lot, but Deanna played saxophone on the new record, right? And we recorded most of the record up in Northern California at Kid Anderson's studio.
Yeah,
And with our both busy schedules, we couldn't always, it was impossible to bring her to the studio. And so I recorded her right here in my house, overdubbed, and it was fun. The two of us had a great time.
but that's what I say. The viewers of Bluesmoose can remember the last time in October 22, where we did a live session with our Bluesmoose Cafe, and it's absolutely a brilliant recording became. And that was the album When a Bluesman Came to Town, and now it's a new baby born, and is called Close to the Bone, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And the last one was a sort concept album, like in the 70s, was one story with little songs in it. And these are just old-fashioned, lovely blues songs. And you
Thank
picked
you.
them.
Well, I picked them, I had fun picking out the material because um, there was, I record for Alligator Records,
Yes.
right? And Bruce Iglauer is the president of Alligator Records. He's
I spoke to
also
him a couple of years ago.
good. He's a good man, and he's a good friend of mine. And one thing I know about him is he really knows this music, and he knows the real blues better than anything, So I went to him for some ideas, and another man is a good friend of mine, Dick Sherman. He's sort of a blues historian and has produced a number of records for Delmark. And so he is also very, very knowledgeable he could tell you who played on every song on every record going back 50 years. So I asked them also for some ideas for some songs because I didn't see any need to write all new original songs for this kind of a record. It was more of a tribute to the deep blues that I love and different kinds of blues that I love without being the least bit contemporary. No rock blues, no no funk or interesting singer-songwriter songs that I occasionally have been known to do. So this was all going to be just strictly about the blues. So I wanted to do mostly covers
Yeah.
of blues songs, but I didn't want it to be the obvious artists, the obvious songs. I wanted to go out and find some things that were kind of hidden gems. Yeah, and there's
You
more to that.
succeeded. You succeeded, in my opinion. I took the time today to listen to a couple of few songs, and the ones that is absolutely my favorite is, let's see, Crazy Woman Blues.
That's my buddy Guy influence.
Yeah. Okay.
Buddy's like one of my big influences. And so when I was doing that song, I was thinking, that's my Buddy tribute in a way. Buddy
And
Guy, from his old stuff, A Man and His Blues album is my favorite Buddy Guy album. And there's six slow blues songs on that album. I think almost every song on that album is a slow 12-bar blues. And I never get tired of listening to that. It also has Can't Quit the Blues on it, I think. And that was a song that I recorded in my first album from when I was with Blind Pig back in the day. So, but not to get off the track, that Crazy Woman Blues was that's my Buddy Guy influence coming out.
that you had other blues giants that you want to pay tribute on this record.
Yes, of
Which
course.
one?
Well, Johnny Guitar Watson,
Yeah, that surprises me because
and I
that's
also
an hidden gem.
that's it. Yeah, because there's a number of his songs that people have done. I'm Tired. They've done um, uh, Hot Little Mama, you know, those songs have been covered quite a bit. Uh, and so here I am. The other thing about that track is
For the
I did
record, this
She
song
Moves
"She
Me.
Moves Me" is the song you're meaning now.
Yeah, She Moves Me by Johnny Guitar Watson. And God, I looked at the album cover for that song. He looks to be about 20 years old back then, maybe, maybe. And and uh, and I used at Kid Anderson's. The great thing about recording at Greaseland, my friend Chris Anderson's studio, is that he has just an amazing amount of old vintage guitars all over his place. The guitars in that it's amazing to me. So all I did was I brought my old Stratocaster with me, and that was it. The rest of the album I used some of his guitars, and so I used a 330, a Gibson 330, a 60s vintage 330 model. That's the one that has the the P90s, the silver P90s on it. And I played it with a capo on the first fret and with my fingers the whole time, no pick. And that's what gave me a little bit more of that Johnny Guitar Watson sort of sound.
Yeah, that's and I think he's known in Holland because he had one great hit that's a real motherfucker, but he has made more and more and more great music than just that song that became a hit here.
Many years before that, yeah,
Yeah.
in the 50s and 50s and early 60s, he had these great blues albums. He's a great blues guitar player. Everybody covers him. Jimmy Vaughn, if you listen to Jimmy Vaughn and you go listen to old Johnny Guitar Watson, uh, there's a big influence there. You know, so many people, Duke Robillard, of course, and Ronnie Earl and all of those cats, those Boston guys, they really dug into Watson's stuff. So and going around asking advice from my friends who are really steeped in the blues, who should I, where should I go for songs? And a few people said, well, you got to do get Johnny Guitar Watson. So I said, yeah, you're right. I love him, and I just got to find the right song. But the most interesting thing about the songs I chose is I realized at one moment, there's a song by my old friend Johnny Nitro. Johnny Nitro is known in San Francisco he had a band that kind of really played all over San Francisco. Just about every night they played in San Francisco in the 90s. And that's when I was coming up in San Francisco. I was getting my experience on stage, playing. I'd been playing guitar my whole life, but I was really
Yes.
starting to become a professional, and I was hanging out with people like this friend of mine, Johnny Nitro, and he had some really good songs, but most people don't know those songs. You can hardly even find his music even on the internet. So I picked one of his songs that I always like called One More Night, and I played it in his style, really greasy Stratocaster kind of Texas drone kind of thing. And then also I realized there's a Chris Kane song that I always loved called Wake Up and
Oh,
Smell the Coffee. And I thought, well, it's 30 years old now. That's Chris Kane's first album.
yeah.
And it's 30 years ago. And if you're gonna uh, cover something, why not cover somebody like Chris Kane? He's not the obvious choice, when you make a blues album, you see somebody's gonna cover some songs, you're probably not gonna find a Chris Kane or Johnny Nitro song on there. But so that was my angle to make this more personal to me, and bring out, maybe shine a little light on some of my friends like Ron Thompson. I did that song called
Freight
Freight
train.
Train Ride. That was a Ron Thompson song, but it sounds a lot like Elmore James because that's how Ron played. When he played the slide guitar, he played like Elmore James, but on steroids.
It amazes me how good you are with recognizing the sound of an old bluesman in all your songs you're playing. So you give well thought of it. And I saw also a song Everywhere I Go. That's from your bass player, Randy McDonald. And he seems, when I met him, absolutely a great storyteller.
Yeah.
And and I didn't listen to the lyrics that well, but I know that must be a great song because he's a storyteller in my book when I spoke to him.
Yeah, he has another old song that he recorded years ago called Texas Flower. It's also got a really good story to it. This one, uh, it's a story, and this is going in the Netherlands, right? This is going into Europe, and so I think it's safe to say it was one of his ex wives that he's singing about. When he broke up,
Okay.
he still couldn't get her out of his mind. Everywhere he went, something was reminding him of her, and that's this. And I thought it was a very well written story.
Well, it.
And
And an
and then
old-fashioned blues
yeah,
theme to a song.
yeah. And he played it like a boogie, um, and so to try to make it a little bit different, I was, Deanna, I had some good advice for me when I was putting these songs together, and I played that one for her, and she goes, man, it needs something to make it a little bit different, because it sounds like any boogie you ever heard. So maybe something you can find something you could do to make it a little bit different. And so we added another riff in between the boogie line. So there's a little line in between there that breaks it up a little bit, makes it a little bit more original. I've never heard one played exactly like that before. And then Kid Anderson had some ideas about how we would deliver that song. Um, and I played slide a guitar on an old silver tone guitar he had hanging on the wall in there. It was kind of like this, like, all right, we're going to cut this song next. What do you want to play? I'm like, how about that? Let's try that.
Yeah, that looks. It looks to me that you lose a lot of time if you pick every guitar from the wall and exercise in it, and then that's not a good sound. Take another one. But it's good to hear that you did it as you did it.
We can kind of tell by looking at the guitar and knowing what it is. We know pretty much what it's going to sound like. And so we really didn't have to experiment very much. Every guitar we picked was the right one. So we
You
picked
have a
it,
lot of.
we played it, boom.
I
Yeah.
see you have a lot of blues friends on the record, and Billy Branch, Chris King, Rick Estrin,
Yeah.
Scott Jensen, Jason, your wife, Deanna Bogart. And do you accept how they play the song, of do you tell them, and maybe Kid Anderson also, van we want it this way, or take your
A little bit. Like for instance, I think one of the most interesting things, as my guests are concerned, is that Chris Kane is playing piano on a Ray Charles song.
okay,
So I didn't have to tell him what to do because he plays in the style of Ray Charles. All that's kind of his big influence on the piano, and he's brilliant, as you know, as a guitarist and a songwriter
yeah.
and a performer and a comedian.
I spoke to him in the same
And
interview as that I had with him. He's absolutely a treat in the music, and see him on stage has absolutely. He doesn't look like a superstar, but he is it, and he doesn't show it. He's
he
absolute brilliant.
humble. That's the word. He's very humble, but his
Yeah.
playing is like from God. There's no other I mean, that's how I describe it. It's come directly, you know. It's so natural to him and so inspiring. Um, that I'm a big fan of Chris, obviously, but I just thought it would be so cool to have him play piano on this. It's everybody would expect a guitar, and
Yeah.
so I have him on the piano. Um, as Billy Branch, I just wanted to have some real authentic harmonica guys. So Rick Estrin is also
Yeah.
plays harmonica on one of the songs, and we had these guys from the Bay Area, a gospel group named the Sons of the Soul Revivers, and they lost one of their brothers about a year ago. So the two guys came in, James and Dwayne, and with me and Kid together, we did some background vocals for
Oh yeah.
the Charles song, um, and a fun old Magic Slim Jam. I know when you look at the credits on the record, it says Brownie McGee
Yeah.
as a title of Hole in the Wall. I mean, as the writer for Hole in the Wall, and of
But
course it is.
the
But
last song, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was a Magic Slim song. So I got it from the old Chicago blues guy named Magic Slim, and it's a it's a fun tune, but it needed that good, sort of real serious background vocal to make it to drive it home, and I could hear it in my mind what it would sound like with those guys. So we asked them to come in, and while they were there, we did have them on the Ray Charles song. And that was also one of Deanna's ideas. She said, "How about instead of the horns, you use voices in on that song? Because a Ray Charles version would have that song would have horn parts in the background." And they said, "What if you replace the horn parts with voices?" And I went, "Wow, that's a great idea." And it came out. It's my favorite part of the whole track is when those guys come in and start singing.
Oh, that's absolutely a good tip for playing that song in our show, man. So people listening now, it's coming up.
Right.
That's what we call it. And now the future. Um, the album is going to be released, and you're going to be back in Europe early May,
Yes.
and the end of April, early May. We're going to see you. I know for sure, and the Moulin Blues Festival in Ospel. That's a great festival. But I will search for you and will tell the people where you all can be seen live. That's absolutely a must go.
Yes, please, because we'll be in uh, going back to Netherlands and Germany, and I know that those are I imagine a lot of people in Germany watch your show.
Yep.
So that would be very helpful if you could send some people our way, because we're still building our audience in Europe, we got interrupted by the pandemic, of course, like everybody else. That set us back a few years. But anyway, we're coming back, and we're looking forward to we really enjoy our time when we come to
Oh,
Netherlands.
absolutely.
It's
It'll,
one of those places. Every time I go there, I get on a bicycle and ride down the street, and I say to myself, I could live here. I wish and sometimes I think I wish I lived here. It's something about it to me that just is, it just seems, everything seems to be, this is the way life should be,
it's
and
somewhat more relaxed than in the
where I
States.
live, it's not that nice all the time, as you know. We're all
Although
in
I
conflict constantly over here.
yeah, that's those strange things going on, and I'm glad you're safe in the upper part of Northern California, of northern part in
Yes.
Los Angeles. I see we got 10 minutes, so we're gonna slowly wrap it up, and I know I can talk to you the whole night, but
Yeah, yeah. What else would you like to know?
no, that's what I say. How are you doing physically? Because I spoke to you, you seemed very fit to me for traveling. And being a touring artist all over the world because Joe Louis Walker said, "I'm a professional traveler, and in between I play music." I think I
Yeah,
think traveling is more harder on for somebody than just playing on stage and getting to the other on another show,
yeah.
even in Europe.
It does keep, so when I'm at home, I exercise on a regular basis. Nothing hardcore. I ride a bicycle. You guys ride a bicycle to go to the store.
Yeah,
I ride a bicycle for exercise, and I can get in maybe an hour of riding of my bicycle a day at home, or I go to the gym to do some strength training, and mostly because I'm gonna be my next birthday. I'll be 70 years old,
yeah. I mean,
and so what I'm finding out, I read up on health and wellness. It's kind of one of my interests, aside from, And when I read about it, there's been a lot of research lately that's as the older we get, the more important it is for strength training because it keeps your bones, not just your muscles, but your bones stronger.
Okay.
You put a little weight, on your bones, and your bone says, "Hey, we need to be stronger and bigger." And so the body actually lays down more bone. So I'm really conscious of getting in a regular strength training as much as I can, and without. I don't want to be a big muscle building guy.
You don't need to, but
I
that's
just
the
want to stay healthy
that's the
until
physical part.
I
That's
got
the
another
physical
20
part. But
years.
I meant mentally, you're prepared and 3 hours traveling. And good thing in Europe, it's not so far. There's not so great and fast distances as in the States.
Right,
But
but the two
nevertheless, flying.
together, uh, my physical fitness helps me to do the work, to do it well. If I'm not in good health, and it's going to be my energy's not. You know how much energy it takes to put on a show like this. It takes quite a lot of energy and focus.
Yeah,
This is the weak spot for me. This is the weakest thing I got is up here, and I need that clarity and that focus, and so staying eating well and exercising actually really helps with this.
yeah.
So
And I
that's how
also
I do.
we did a good show, but I can also imagine if you have a show and there are only 50 people turning up, that's a different show than there are 10,000 people in front of you because you get more feedback. But still, I know there is a Tommy Castro who doesn't care because if there are 50 people or 10, they deserve the best of you, and that signifies an artist to me.
That's my commitment. That's my promise. If there's 5 people there, they paid for a ticket, they're going to get the same show if there was 50,000.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's difficult. It's a little harder for me to do that without the energy coming back. But, a lot of times a small crowd, if it happens for whatever reason, weather happens, disasters happen. Like here we were in Southern California. My God, nobody ever dreamed that we would see that,
No, no.
Yeah, but unfortunately, well, it's a small thing for us, but had some shows scheduled around Southern California this January. And so we weren't right in the area of the flyers. One show was canceled, but the other ones were nearby. And so the whole, things like this happen and you can't control it. And sometimes you'll get a small crowd because of it. And so we had in Fontana, California, it's a new club that is sort of sponsored by Sammy Hagar. It's called the
Okay.
Red Room, something like that. So we had a show there, and it was fairly lightly attended, maybe 100 people, because there's very near the fires. So you never can tell. But
We
all I
couldn't
know is,
imagine it. I saw it in Maui, in Luana. I was there a couple of years ago, 20, 25, 30 years ago with my dad in the same area, and I couldn't imagine it. And the same happens now again with Los Angeles. That's so odd. Maybe it's the building, they make them of wood, and Europe is all bricklaying and stuff. I don't know. But the good thing is, and I have to wrap it up because I have now 4 minutes for myself, that there is a new album from Tommy Castro. We're gonna play a few songs of it, absolutely. And the good thing is we can see you live and buy it from your own hands if you probably will. Is there a vinyl record also from this album in the
yes, there's a
making?
beautiful blue.
Oh, it's now blue. The last one was green.
Yeah, this is blue, and it's the same kind of thing. You could see through it. It's translucent blue vinyl, 180 grams quality vinyl. I love it. I love it, man. I put it on my record player, and it sounded like an old blues record, and I was almost crying. It was.
Tommy, we do all we can, and especially in Blues Magazine, for get the people know where you play and what time it is, and then people seeing I'm absolutely treated. It's the third time we spoke together, and now through the wonders of technician, it works, and I've loved it absolutely. Say hi
And
to Diana.
I sure will. And all of the guys in the band, we all remember, doing our Blues Moose show. It was our first show, I think, when we came to
That was
Europe.
the first show, yeah, and that mostly is the first show, not the best of a band because they have to get each other. And you said, "No, why should it be the worst? We play always." He said, "You didn't worry."
Well, thank you so much for everything that you do, and appreciate it very